of today. So, kicking off the first draft of the day, it's going to be Kingsmen from Singapore as well as HFX Elite Pro from Indonesia. And yep, first ban of the Open Championships is going to be the Tamus.
And it does seem like we do have a standardization of names coming from HFX Elite. Yesterday we were expecting to see Lapu Lapu on the side lanes and Alice on the other side of the lane. Hayabusa heads to the middle lane as the hyper carry. We've got the Khalid in the tank, and of course A1 A2 on to the not A1 A2 actually. Wait, maybe it is. But yes, the Natalia will be the support of the game. Well, HFX Elite Pro, they do have a Sylvanas that's being picked up. So Sylvanas on the side lanes, Lunox on the side lanes as well.
Yeah, I mean the Sylvanas is just there to kind of just stop the Hayabusa from being able to use the quad shadows. You know, he's really good against the Khalid for being able to jump out with the Raging Sandstorm. And you also get a bit of a lockdown onto the Natalia and Alice. So I think Sylvana is not too bad. It's more of trying to use her as a hard counter against the Hayabusa, and at the same time she also does provide that magical damage, which you can definitely tell from HFX Elite's Pro. That's going to be the main bulk of the damage because they also pick up Lunox alongside her. And yeah, I mean, in terms of drafting wise, both teams looking very even. Even though I'm just gonna tilt that favor towards Kingsmen just slightly because of the early game potential that they have. They have this Khalid that's gonna be able to scale pretty well early game. You know, you got the Raging, not a Raging Sandstorm, but you have the Tooling Tornado, and at the same time, you also have a really strong side laner in both Lapu Lapu and Alice. You know, heroes that are very sustainable and they don't really need too much support early game to hold their own ground.
On the flip side, I do like the lineup coming in from HFX though. It does seem like they have a pretty good curve when it comes to this part. Early game, mid game, late games. As long as do consistently well, they should be able to help their Yi Sun-shin to get pretty good farm ups in the middle lane, in the mid stages of the game, and of course transition to the late game pretty effectively. In the meantime, A1 A2 immediately jumps right on top and tries to get a kill onto the Sylvanas. They did manage to get a pretty decent poke down onto the Sylvanas and help Lune to establish dominance in the top lane itself, and that is going to be quite an issue coming in from Sylvanas.
Yeah, it's going to be vital for Lord Nonkia here to stop that blue buff getting taken, but I'm pretty sure that they will be able to get it, and now they might even get the first blood, punishing the Kufra. And yes, I don't think the Lunox is going to want to linger around for too long. There's A1, A2 just hiding there with the Natalia, and a little bit of a greedy play, but you know, you miss the shots you don't take. You tried to stop the Hayabusa from taking the blue buff, but unfortunately, got punished for that.
With a first single kill, a initial first blood coming in from Kingsmen, getting onto the Kufra. That pretty much just pushes the HFX Elite to not play that aggressive anymore. Perhaps it could be a disencouraging factor onto Nonkia, but you know, sometimes people may still want to try whatever that they can in order to stop the opponent's advances. And at this moment of time, you can pretty much see Odia, Bambi and Deity. They have done quite a number on this Kufra and just forcing this Kufra back to base and back to base and back to base over and over again. They are not gonna give Kufra the luxury of getting that EXP at all.
Yeah, and Lord Media tries to TP back to base, but here comes A1, A2 to sneak in Natalia. Only level 3, but more than enough to get the kill onto the Lunox. Meanwhile, top lane, Lockhawk dropping very low. The Shuriken will do the trick. That's going to be an easy kill for this Hayabusa. And A1, A2 will join into the fray just to add more damage onto HFX Elite Pro that doesn't seem to be coping really well with the fast rotation coming from Kingsman.
We're looking at really good rotations from Kingsmen. They are committing to fights, and indeed they will. As you can pretty much see, Lockhawk that is going to be onto the Yuzhong. He goes into Dragonoid form, advances into the middle lane and converges with the rest of his team, and so will Lapu Lapu. Top lane 2 versus 2 situation over here. We do have a Hisatsu Shadow kill right on top of Lord Ricardo, and unfortunately Lee Sun Shin will go down. So will Kufra for the second time. HFX Elite Bro, they're choking a little bit here. They do have a little bit of an issue when it comes to enduring themselves in team fights. The amount of damage, that, like you said, Kingsmen do have a lot of damage in the early stages of the game, but HFX Elite, they need to find ways to play a little bit more conservative, a little bit more passive, instead of just jumping head first into every single team fight.
Yeah, easy total secure coming in from Mlbb, but now his team is in a lot of trouble. 5-man invade, or the 4-man invade from HFX Elite Pro into the jungle. Alice with a blood, stuns 3 of them up. Hayabusa in a lot of trouble, but uses a shadow kill in the nick of time, but he will still go down to the Kufra. And here comes Deity, twirling tornado, picks up 1 onto the Lunox, and I don't think there's anywhere that this Kufra is gonna have to run. He's eventually gonna go down, but he's gonna delay all the time in the world that he can for the Indu side.
Well played coming in. It does seem like Deity managed to get himself out of that sticky situation with just a sliver of health, but also thanks to A1, A2 bursting that Kufra down, especially since that Alice was actually nowhere near to deliver that finishing blow. 8-4. 4 minutes in, we're looking at not a lot of goal advantages that Kingsmen have, to be honest. It's 4 kills forward, and yet the advances is only at like what? 500 gold. So HFX Elite has been pretty productive when it comes to their rotations. They are getting their numbers down, they're getting their income down, and they're not gonna get any moment to be completely wasted. True, they may be dying a couple of times, but they are accommodating for the fact that they're just farming throughout the board.
Yeah, I think most of the farm from HFX Elite Pro has been gone onto the Yutong. You know, he's been pretty much undisturbed at the bot lane, you know, prior to getting killed and picked off from a gank from Lapu Lapu, as well as the Natalia, if I do believe that's what happened. But you know, Kingsmen in general, a lot of the kills going onto Natalia, which is not what you want. You want a higher percent be picking up, but you know, a kill is a kill, and it will definitely, you know, help Kingsmen accelerate that early game stage even more. Aeon dropping very low on this Lapu Lapu. And the stacks just enough for HFX Elite Pro to pick up the kill onto him, and they're gonna also get another pickup onto Deity on this Khalid, who shouldn't be there, but you know, stuff happens.
At the moment of time, HFX Elite has now caught up to the gold net worth with about $200 to spare, and of course getting themselves the turtle is going to be one good thing, and the other good thing is going to be Yuzhong pushing down the first tier turret in the bottom lane, extending the lead a little bit further. Kingsmen have to play a little bit more towards the objective gaming, because now they have been so preoccupied with getting kills to the point that they haven't really gotten much turrets. So good thing first, top and bottom lane in a first tier turret is now down. They're jumping right on top of the front lines coming in from HFX Elite. The commitment has now been faltered, and they do not want to continue with the fight here, as Lord Maida managed to get himself out of that sticky situation. The Desert Sandstorm from Deity brings himself further and further away from the team fight, and the Quicksand Guard just buys himself a little bit more time, and hoping that the rest of the members coming from Kingsmen would come in to save the day. But unfortunately, nothing of that was of substance, and now Kingsmen with their best foot backwards, they have to defend whatever that they can.
Khalid getting picked up for the 4th time in a row in the mid lane, but as tank of the team, I wouldn't say that's the biggest loss. Kingsmen still finding valuable kills onto Lord Maida, as well as Lord Hawk. And HFS Elite Pro, they know that as long as they get Lord Cardo's farm up, they shouldn't be having too much of a problem. The Eastern Shin should be able to carry this late game, and for Kingsmen, same thing goes for Mlbb. Although things haven't been running smooth, and speaking of smooth, top lane, HFS Elite Pro, really good rotation to the top, finds 2 kills onto A1, A2 as well as Loon.
The lineup is slowly steering in the way of HFX Elite. Their curve and the fact that they are pretty much on, they can play on curve is gonna be one heck of a detriment to Kingsmen, and of course gonna be the determinant of getting themselves the win. Because it doesn't really matter if they are if they are early game losers, as long as they can secure the mid games, which is where the main bulk of the damage comes in from, I'm pretty sure that they will be able to deal quite a damage onto HFX. But in the meantime, it does seem like Mlbb doesn't quite have the burst damage necessary to bring down Lokka. And just like that, with a couple of shurikens and a couple of sword dances coming in from Aeon, is more than enough to bring down Yuzhong. But in the meantime, middle lane, they find themselves in an unfavorable trade as it ends up becoming a 2-for-1 trade. And that is going to be a Yuzhong's death for their own valuable experience of getting the Alice as well as the Khalid kill.
Split push coming in from Hayabusa onto the bot lane when the Tyler cuts the creep at the top, and Kingsmen here falling back to the roots of split pushing and making sure that they achieve something on the map even if they don't win those team fights. And HFS Elix Pro, they are aware of that. They're trying to cut Mlbb's root off, but Lord Maida getting caught up by the Nutella. Not enough damage though coming from A1, A2, and the Lunox will walk out of there alive, but Mlbb, that was a little bit too close for comfort, but he does make it to the base safe and sound.
Just in the nick of time. And of course, the Kufra was just kind of like wandering around thinking that, hey, did he come up from the bush? Did he come out? Or was he staying in there? By the time he went back into the brushes, it was a little bit too late. And speaking of that, it does seem like Deity goes straight in for the Desert Sandstorm. He's trying to buy a little bit more time and just kind of zone out Lord Nong. And of course, cuts right in front of him just so that Nongga does not jump onto his frontliners. But it does seem like despite all of that fact, Deity is just going to be sacrificing himself, pushing himself right out with the Raging Sandstorm to allow his teammates to get themselves away. Deity is playing with all those strings at the backlines that no one can see, and thus have led him to 6 deaths in a row. I gotta give it to him. Deity, although he doesn't have quite that substance in teamfights, he's been playing with the puppet strings, ensuring that Nongga don't jump into the front lines is going to be one of the best ways, best ideas, and him sacrificing himself, getting himself a really nice 4-man stun onto the rest of HFX Elite.
A1, A2 here, once again targeting the Lunox, trying to silence her up, but like I said, not enough damage to get the deed done. This is no longer the early game. The Nutella is starting to lose her presence, but HFX Elite Pro, they're not gonna complain about that. They've been dominating a lot of these huge team fights, finding kills all across the map, and they've only taken to the goal. They get a 3-man stun as well. Mlbb, they find him in the bush, and they also pick up the 80. And this is bad for Kingsmen.
That is a really good jump coming from Lord Nongga. Like, that was kind of like off in the fog of war, and yet he managed to land the Tyrant's Revenge right on top of Mlbb, like right onto the target. And I'm pretty impressed, if you ask me. I'm really actually impressed. And just like that, it was an immediate Tyrant's Rage onto the wall, and all Lord Ka has got to do is just jump right in, Furious Dive, and get an easy kill right off on this Hayabusa. And thus, Hayabusa's farm has now been dropped to 6.8 thousand gold in terms of net worth. It's gonna be tough for Hayabusa to even catch up. And now the Yisun Shin is at 9.5. The Yuzhong is at 8.3, and of course Sylvanas is almost at the same figures as this Hayabusa. That means a lot.
Yeah, impressive stats on the Yisun Shin, but even more so on the Yuzhong. And now HFS Elite Pro, they know they have the net worth needed to just break into Kingsman's defense and just try to end this game with the Lord. But I'm pretty sure that Kingsman will be able to hold on for one more push. But here comes Lund trying to buy time with his Alice, trying to soak up all the damage, but it's just too much. HFS Elite Pro, they tear this Alice apart, and they will take the tier 3 down the mid. And what can the rest of Kingsman do? They go for the back line, they take the Sylvana down, and it just might be enough. Aeon comes in with the Padang, or not the Padang, but the Lapu Lapu, and they will get a 3-man knockup. But Lord Maida still has a bulk of this magical damage on this Lunox, and she doesn't have ultimate, but yes she does. The Fail Waves comes in, does it enough? The Shadow Q, countered by the Winter Truncheon, but Mlbb, all he has to wait is for the effect to wear off, and they will pick that Lunox up eventually.
Well played coming from Kingsmen. They did manage to repel the Lord away, and of course getting themselves with 4 kills in the bag, and that is going to push Hayabusa's farm forward with 9.1 thousand, although still a little bit far. But they can definitely bridge the gaps as long as they continue to win these kinds of fights, such as one of these important ones, just stunts after stunts after stunts right onto Lord Nonka. If they manage to get themselves that burst damage down onto Nonka, then it shouldn't be a problem. And now it's just telltale signs after telltale signs. We've got Lord Ka jumping right in, of course, with the Black Dragon emerges, and they're continuing with the team fight, and Lord Cardo jumps in as well and got himself some very critical strikes onto the main bodies of Kingsmen. And now with two of them just diving right onto the core, I don't think they care at all. They're just gonna go for the core and immediately get themselves the first win in this best of 2 in the round robin series.
Yeah, really well played coming up for HFX Elite Pro, knowing that the win condition is try to get this Eastern shit up to speed. And I gotta say, Kingsmen not too impressed by the early game management. Yes, they did really well picking off the Lunox a couple of times in mid. A1, A2 trying his best to, disrupt the jungle, but